So right now we have Craft Cannery from Bergen, New York. Craft Cannery takes cherished recipes from your kitchen to the shelves of grocery stores, restaurants, farmers markets, and beyond, specializing in contract manufacturing of sauces, dressings, marinades, and more. Craft Cannery was mentored by Eric Mosdy, and Paul Guglielmo is going to come up and impress you with his pitch. And he will be joined by Tom Riggio for Q&A. Welcome up. All right, here you go. Here's your clicker. Take center stage.
Hey, guys. My name is Paulie Guglielmo. I am the CEO of Craft Cannery, located right here in the Grow, New York region. Shout out Genesee County in the house. Woo. We're in beautiful Bergen, New York. We are a contract manufacturer, co-packer. So if you don't know, so basically you've got like this awesome sauce recipe or something. You want to bottle it, bring it to market, we can help you out with that. That's our team, our beautiful building. Those are our 4 certifications. And for a co-packer of our size to have those certifications is relatively rare, especially the SQF. Now, a lot of the work we do is already happening in the Grow New York region. We're also pulling some business into the region. Those are a lot of the logos of the companies that we work with. And we work across 3 main segments. That's going to be the small startup entrepreneurs, restaurants, and regional brands. That's what we are. I don't know if it's who we are, though. That's who we are. Those are the faces of the entrepreneurs behind the brands, the logos that you just saw. And that's a cross-section of America. Those are chefs, inventors, 5th-generation president and CEOs. There's a retired police officer up there, mother-daughter duos, brother-sister duos. There's even one former Grow New York Grand Prize winner. Can you spot him? It's Dan from Real Eats. I mentioned we work across 3 segments, so let's talk about the entrepreneurs and what we give them access to. First of all, that's manufacturing. A lot of times I have to explain how hard that is. I feel like I'm finally in a room where I don't have to explain how hard it can be to find a co-packer when you just have $1 and a dream. For the restaurants, it's the efficiency of back-of-house packaging. We do like pouches, pails, buckets, things like that, gallon jugs. They love that because they're spending a couple hours every single day making all those sauces. Now, we've done away with that for them. We can do their proprietary formulas, have them delivered right to the back of the house, and now that employee can start doing something else to help them grow their business. Also, new revenue for restaurants. So that famous sauce that you have at your restaurant, we can bottle it, put your logo on it, put it in the grocery store. Now, your customer, who can't come to your restaurant every night as much as they would like to, now they go to the grocery store, there's your logo again, so there's another marketing touch point and also new revenue potentially for you. During the pandemic, that was huge. We had some restaurants during the pandemic that weren't allowed to operate, and this was all they had. Flex capacity, so this is a good example. This would be our work with Wegmans. We do 1 SKU for Wegmans, hence the SQF thing. So Wegmans was in a tough position. They had this 1 SKU that they wanted. They needed a recipe, so we created this recipe for them. I think that's innovation, right? We created this recipe for them, but they had a situation, right? It's 1 SKU, so it's a little too small to be big. They can't go to the industrial packers with that. A little too big to be small. They're Wegmans. They need an SQF certified facility, so that was a home run for us. So how did we even know how to do this? A few years ago, I started a different business. I started a little pasta sauce business. That is my grandfather that is so cool that he's up there right now. That's my grandpa up on that screen, and that's our jar of sauce. That's my grandpa on the jar. The little guy is me back when I was still cute. And my cell phone number is on every jar of sauce also, by the way. So I run around this region a few years ago, kind of putting together all the different, cogs of the wheel that need to go together to be able to launch a product. It's hard to launch a product. And at the time, I thought that was the business, right? That's the home run, the sauce. I'm still very proud of that. I love that to this day, and it still exists. But that wasn't really the business that we were building. I was accidentally building a truly innovative co-packing experience, something that needed to exist. This circle of stuff, this is the stuff that every entrepreneur in this room right now is trying to figure out. How do we do this? How do we put all this together and launch our product? I did all that. The cell phone number thing on the jar, I started getting phone calls all the time. I was answering several phone calls a week of people just being like, hey man, are you that guy who did the sauce? Cool, how do I? And then the question, right? So let me give you a couple of real world examples of how we've been innovative within our space. That's James. James is from Intergrow. Intergrow has 2 giant greenhouses here in the Grow New York region. And Intergrow, they do millions of pounds of tomatoes every year. 500,000 pounds of that is waste. You just heard my grandfather roll over in his grave. 500,000 pounds of tomatoes wasted by Intergrow every single year. So last year here at Grow New York, Dr. Bruno from Cornell made the introduction to Intergrow, and they wanted to know if I knew anything about how to boil down tomatoes. This is literally the first thing I ever learned how to bottle with my grandfather in his basement 25 years ago, was how to boil down tomatoes. So we created a product called New York State Crushed Tomatoes. Today you can get that in food pantries across the state. You can also find it in high-end restaurants. And I am so proud to say that some of those upcycled tomatoes are in products right now that you can walk out right now and go buy with big brand names on them that you would recognize. Upcycled tomatoes, but we only used 50,000 pounds of them, and they have 500,000 pounds. So that's a problem. We need more capacity. Here's another good example. That's Jim and Brandon Bach. They created this thing called an easy cap. So it's basically a lid that takes about 30% of the effort to get off of a jar. My mother has arthritis. I've literally seen her take a wrench to jars before. I'm a large person, and I've stood in my kitchen before going, like trying to get the lid off of a jar. So it's a thing, like that's a thing. That's an issue sometimes. Speaking of the cell phone on the jar, I've gotten phone calls from people saying, really want to try this sauce, can't get the lid off, right? So these guys, have invented this thing called the Easy Cap. They came to us. We were the 747th co-packer they called, because the first 746 were like, no way, dude. We're not changing our process. It's not happening. When I hear that, I go, no, these people need to be heard. So right now, we have 4,000 cases of tomato sauce with a recipe we created in circulation in a chain called Boyer's in Philadelphia that we did with their caps, doing kind of a case study on how is this gonna go. Here's the best part. I'm not even asking you to take a leap of faith. It's already working. 2022 for us, $2 million year, and we are profitable right now. It's already working. We think with your investment, we skyrocket. We think we're a $15 million company in just a couple of years. The direct jobs and the indirect jobs are through the roof, because essentially what we create, or help create, I should say, is other businesses. And what we stumbled on, the secret sauce, if you will, is that there's a co-pack death valley in this area. Not our term, by the way. We met with the Cornell Center of Excellence. We meet with them all the time, but in anticipation for Grow New York, that's their term for this. So as soon as I heard them say it, I was like, oh, home run, right? We're on to something. Can I use that, please? The co-pack death valley is very real. So this slide is kind of important. I want you to kind of picture that left incubator commercial kitchen. That's dollar and a dream, okay? All the way to the right, that's scale, national distribution, like the biggest companies in the world. There are co-packers doing a really good job all along this thing, okay? The industrial co-packers in this area are fantastic. Small co-packers, they're good. The incubators, commercial kitchens, Cornell has the pilot plant, they're all fantastic. What we discovered that nobody was doing was incubating and accelerating the entire thing. So basically, dollar and a dream, knock on our door, we're here for you, all the way up to the front door, of the industrial packers, who we know are turning away roughly 80% of the phone calls that they're getting. 80% we think equates to an absolute worst case scenario of $10 million. We think it's probably more around 30, and that's just the Grow New York region. As soon as you open up the rest of the state, we think it's about 10x that, and then as soon as you go outside of New York State, forget about it. The dollar and a dream co-packer, best of both worlds. We can bring you, because you know, like that, kind of that middle is full of puddles and like hurdles and things. We just want you to be able to stay with one co-packer the whole time, and I hope you get to the industrial packer level, and when you do, front doorstep. And how do we know about that? Because the industrial packers are on our side. Stephanie and Aaron are extremely vital to our success. Those are the two people who I text, probably a little too often if you ask them, and ask questions to, how do we this, should we that, should we this, should we that? Bruno, of course, is kind of an advisor to everybody here. Frank Cavallaro is the man. And my partner, Tom Riggio, who you're about to meet, has taken million-dollar brands and turned them to billion-dollar brands on several occasions. Tom has been with Vitamin Water, Bark Thins, and Pirate's Booty as an investor and at the executive level. And he's my friend. Isn't that cool? So, we've thought through the $250,000 and $500,000 level prizes, of course. But where the real impact happens is at that $1 million level. Because at the $1 million level, it's pretty simple. We buy a new bottling line. We don't replace anything we have, because we will always be here for the entrepreneurs. That's where I came from, and I'm not who I say I am if we're ever not here for them. But we need a new bottling line to open up the capacity, because we are saying no to 250,000 case requests. We're saying no to that. Please help me. Please help me. I don't want to say no to that. We put in another $2 million for a 10,000 square foot expansion to house the new line, and as you can see, the job data, I think, speaks for itself. We're already doing it. This is already happening. About 240 or so products that may not exist if we didn't exist. Some of them would, of course, but some of them might not. With your investment, we enable another 54 direct jobs, another 100 plus indirect jobs, drive an additional $24 million in general economic impact. That's by the time the end user actually buys the thing from the store. And we use all 500,000 pounds of those tomatoes. Those things do not deserve to go into a dump. They are beautiful tomatoes. The bottom line is that when you support Craft Cannery, you don't just support this one business. You are supporting dozens, hundreds of entrepreneurs. Thank you.